Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about the best and the worst bags in my collection. I've gone through every single bag that I own and I've picked out my favourite and my least favourite bags. For my favourite bags, I really try to look at every single aspect. So everything from how often I use it to how much joy I get out of it when I do use it, wear and tear, value for money, if I think it's a classic style. I really try to look at everything, so I've ended up with bags that I wholeheartedly recommend in every sense. For the worst bags, I try to be a bit more objective, I guess, and taken away the changeable aspects. So for example, if I picked a bag in a bad color, that's obviously not the bag's fault. So I try to take away those aspects and really focus in on the wear and tear, value for money, that sort of thing. So I hope you guys enjoy this and let's get started. I also wanted to mention that my trees are having one of their tiered discount code sales. They only do this a few times a year where they do set amounts with set discounts off that amount. It's a great one to shop. There are a few brand exclusions, but all the things that I searched for were included. So Saint Laurent, Valentino, my Valentino tote is included, just so many gorgeous things. So definitely one to check it out if you've had your eye on something. They do have a landing page where everything that's included is featured, so I'll link that below, as well as all the different discount codes, because you need different discount codes for each tier and also each country as well. So there is quite a long list, but I'll leave all the information down below in the description section if you did want to check it out. So starting off on a positive note, I'm going to be going over the best bags in my collection first. And the first one in this category is my Chanel Deauville Tote, which is a bit more of a surprising one. When I was planning this video, I didn't think that this would make the cut, but when I considered all the different aspects, I really had to include it. It's been such a pleasant surprise. I obviously like the style enough to get it in the first place, but it's done incredibly well. I think the style is absolutely beautiful, and I do think that this is a love it or hate it kind of thing. Obviously the Chanel logo is quite prominent, which I know won't be everyone's cup of tea, but I absolutely love it. In terms of functionality, it's really great. It can fit a ton. It's also very comfortable to wear because of the leather handles, but it's also very lightweight as well because it's not all leather. In terms of wear and tear, it's also done very, very well. I did not think that this bag would be one which would kind of stand the test of time in terms of durability, but it really has done incredibly well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, as you can see. Like, I don't think it's gotten dirty at all. I haven't done anything. I haven't sprayed it at all. It's just done super well, and I've used this bag a lot. So I have been very, very pleasantly surprised about that. And overall, I just think it's a great bag. I also definitely wanted to include this because I do think that it's priced pretty well in terms of Chanel prices. Obviously everyone is aware that Chanel is priced extremely highly, and I think now there are only really 3 products that they do, which I do think are priced relatively well. They're still obviously extremely expensive, but the first one is the Chanel Mini, the second one is the Chanel SLGs, the little card holders, and the third one is the Deauville Tote. I got this, I think it was for about £1,200. That was at the duty-free price, but even so, I do think it represents pretty good value for money. I do think it's fairly classic in terms of the shape. You know, tote bags never really seem to go out of style, and I just think this is a really, really solid one. So I'm a huge fan of this. I absolutely love it. I get a lot of enjoyment out of using it, and this definitely had to make my cut for my top 5. Next up is another tote, and this is my Louis Vuitton Duffel in the MM size in the Damier Azur with the rose Valerie lining. There was never any doubt in my mind that this one had to be included in my top 5. I absolutely love it. I use it all the time, so much so that it doesn't really have a place in my closet anymore because it doesn't get left alone enough to actually put it away. So it just permanently lives in either the hallway or the living room. It's my grab and go bag, and I've had it for about 18 months, maybe 2 years now. It's done really well in terms of the wear and tear. Obviously it does have the vachetta, which has patinaed, and the lining is paler, so it does get marks on it, but that really doesn't bother me. I love this bag so much. I find that it goes with absolutely everything. I wear it all year round, from winter to summer and everything in between, obviously. And I just can't say enough good things. I'm obviously a huge fan of the Neville line already, and I have 2 others which I really enjoy as well, but this one is by far my favorite. I love the combination, and yeah, I just love everything about it. I was actually waiting for a meeting the other day and I was using this bag and I was sitting there just looking at it thinking, I love that bag so much. And to be this enthusiastic about a bag, you know, 2 years in, I think that says something, you know. I think it is genuinely beautiful, very functional, very classic as well. Neverfalls aren't going anywhere, and yeah, I just absolutely love this bag. My next bag won't come as a surprise to anyone. It is my Chanel Jumbo. I'm only going to talk about this briefly because heaven knows I talk about it enough on this channel, but I had to include it because it is genuinely one of my favorites. I specifically wanted to include the beige jumbo though. This is the newer one that I have, and when I got it, I definitely thought of it as a secondary jumbo. I didn't really think it would replace my black one in any way, but I got to say I've been loving it just as much, and I find it goes with everything that my black one does. I've actually found it to be a little bit more versatile. I never really would use my black jumbo for dinners out. For some reason it just felt a bit too large and overbearing. And obviously this is the same size, but I actually have been using it for dinners out. I've really been liking it. So I've actually found it to be a little bit more versatile, and that's pertinent because you can actually get these for much lower prices on the pre-loved market, whereas black jumbos are often quite difficult to come by, and if they are there, they are priced quite highly. But beige clair jumbos tend to be priced lower for whatever reason. So if you were in the market for a jumbo and you wanted to go down the pre-loved route, then I think that the beige clair is a really nice choice. I have absolutely been loving it, and I think it's just as beautiful as the black one. So absolutely adore this. I did also want to include and mention though my Chanel Mini, because if you're looking for a more accessible price point but you still wanted something from Chanel, or otherwise that you didn't want something as large as the jumbo, then the Chanel Mini is my next choice. I think it's such a great size. It can fit a decent amount. It's very iconic, and I just think it's a beautiful bag. So for Chanel, my two favorites are undoubtedly the jumbo and the mini, both super functional for what they are and both absolutely gorgeous. Next up is my Saint Laurent Sunset bag, and I was tossing up between this and my wallet on a chain as to which one I would include. I consider them both to be seasonal bags because I only really use my wallet on a chain in summer, and I really only use this in the colder months. But this one edged it because I do consider it to be just a little bit more versatile. The wallet on a chain does have quite a short chain, so it's not really something I can wear crossbody. So for me, it really is only an event bag, whereas this is dinky enough to work for many evening events, but I've also used it during the day as well, and I love it for both kinds of occasions or just kind of activities. It's such a great size and bag. I particularly love it in the velvet. I actually really didn't like the larger size in the leather at all, but the velvet has totally changed my mind. I do think that the velvet from Saint Laurent is beautiful quality. It's very plush and dark and just a beautifully made bag. It's not the biggest in terms of capacity, so you have to know what you're getting. You know, this is a very, very small bag, but I absolutely love it. I think it looks stunning, and it just makes me excited to use it. You know, whenever I think I'm going to take this out, I get excited about it, which may sound silly, but the joy really hasn't worn off for this bag, and I've had it for about 6 months now. I think it's just so beautiful. I can fit everything I need to when I pare down my essentials. And yeah, I just love it. So this one makes the cut for that reason. It is quite a new bag, and this is definitely probably the trendiest one I'm talking about today. But as far as trendy bags go, I think this is a great one. You know, the YSL logo isn't going anywhere. It's a pretty classic, you know, color and shape and all that kind of stuff. Velvet has been around for a long time now, so even though it's become much more popular in the last year or so, I don't think it's going anywhere either. And yeah, I just absolutely love this bag. And for the final bag in my best bags category, I have my Gucci Marmont in the nude. Anyone that watched my Gucci collection video will not be surprised by this entry at all, but I absolutely adore this bag so much. I waxed lyrical about it in that video, and I'm gonna do the same now because it's honestly one of my favorites. It's extremely functional. I love pretty much everything about it. You know, it's done very well in terms of wear and tear. I've used it a ton, and there's only a tiny bit of wear on the flap here, and I have not babied this bag at all. You know, I've taken it traveling with me, it's been flung about, and it's just done very, very well. The leather has actually been very durable. I love the color. I truly think this is the perfect nude color. It's versatile enough to go with absolutely everything, but it still has such a pretty tone to it. I love the gold hardware as well. And I was actually thinking about this, and I always get asked, you know, how long do I think that the Marmont line has left in it? Do I think it's a classic? And I'm not convinced that it's going to be around in 10 years time, but I do still think that it has a good few years left in it. And I was thinking about the Givenchy Antigona and why that's still popular. It doesn't necessarily have the best resale value, but there's no doubt that it is still a very popular bag. And I think that's just because it's very functional, it's very versatile, and people like using it. And I think the same can be said of this bag. It's extremely versatile, you can wear it all year round, it goes with everything, and it's functional as well. So for that reason, I'm not planning on stopping using this anytime soon. I absolutely love it and I've been very, very happy with it. Next up are my worst bags, and first in this category is my Prada Camera Bag. I've only spoken about this once before on my channel, and that was when it was fairly new, and I did actually really like it then. In terms of functionality, it's actually really good and it can fit a decent amount. It's a nice little size for travel, and I just thought it was adorable. Since then though, I have used it a few more times, and I've got to say that the wear and tear isn't as good as I would hope it to be. I've heard really mixed things about Prada quality, but I've never really had any experience of that myself. You know, I've owned a couple of Prada bags before and they've always done it really well in terms of wear and tear. This bag is slightly different though, and I've only used this maybe 3 or 4 times, and already I'm starting to see marks all the way along here. I tried to clean it, but I haven't been very successful. I've seen the leather begin to rub off on the back, and even on the zipper, it looks like the fabric is kind of rising up a little bit in places. It's difficult to explain, and it still is pretty minor, but as I mentioned, I've only used this 3 or 4 times, and for a bag to have had this little use, I wouldn't expect it to show any wear and tear, especially at this price point. So this one has been a little bit disappointing for that reason. I don't think that it would put me off Prada in the future. Maybe it's the case that the lower price bags aren't made as well, but I don't really think that should be the case. It's not as if these are cheap items. Even on the back, you can see that it's caving in a little bit. And I've always thought of Saffiano leather as being extremely hard wearing and durable, which is the whole reason that I would go for it, because I don't think it's the prettiest leather. So for me, if it's not the prettiest, then it should at least be durable. And I haven't found that to be the case on this bag. My Deauville Tote, for example, though, I love, and that's also Saffiano leather, and that's done very well. So I'm not really sure why there is a difference, but yeah, I haven't really been overwhelmed with how this held up. Next up on my worst list is my Mansur Gabrielle circle bag. I knew going into this that this wasn't going to be the most functional everyday bag. I got it because I thought it was absolutely adorable and I love the design of it. But I've got to say I've been a little bit underwhelmed with the quality, and I was always under the assumption that Mansur Gabrielle were kind of known for its leather and its general quality. But yeah, I haven't had a good experience with this bag, and I'm going to show you why. So it opens with the zip at the top, and it's not the smoothest on one side, but it's okay. But then I try and open it on the other side and it completely jams, and you have to really pull to get it all the way open. And if you look, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I think it could be a design flaw, I'm not fully sure, but it does seem to jar a little bit outwards. And yeah, so for that reason, it's really difficult to get in and out of. And it's fine if you don't want to open it all the way, but to be honest, it's not that wide even when you do open it all the way. So in order to really get access to your items, you kind of need to zip it open all the way. And I just don't think that's great quality. So it does seem to be getting worse rather than better, which is a slight worry, because I was hoping that with time the zip would loosen. Doesn't seem to be the case. You do kind of have to really tug. And yeah, I don't feel like this should happen with this price point of, it's not easy at all. I don't feel like this should happen at this price point of bag. It's not the cheapest, it's certainly not Chanel prices, but these certainly aren't super bargain basement cheap. I love the design. I think that they're great with their designs. I think they produce bags which really doesn't look like anything else in the market in terms of their lady bag and the circle bag, maybe not so the bucket bag, but I love how innovative they are. I think their color choices are beautiful, but I do think that their quality could do with some work. And next up, continuing on my little quality control streak, I have my Goyard Tote. And I spoke about this right at the beginning of my channel. So I did a comparison, I think it was a work tote comparison, where I included this, and I haven't really mentioned it since, but this today is probably one of my more disappointing bags. I was so excited to get it, and it holds a lot of sentimental value as well. My mum got this for me for graduating university, and I still remember the day we went to pick it out. You know, I had a great time picking out the colors. I was so excited, but the wear and tear on this is so shockingly bad. So On the corners, it has pretty much completely worn through. You can see wear on every corner, but it's particularly bad on this corner and this corner where there's actually a hole. And you'd think that this would happen after, you know, like 3 or 4 years use. This happened after a couple of months, which to me is just totally nuts. And especially when I compare it to my Neverfulls, which I must have used thousands and thousands of times. They are still going strong. I never had any issues with the canvas, and you can kind of see why when you actually feel one up close. It does feel a lot thinner, a lot more flimsy. And ever since I started seeing the wear, I pretty much just stopped using this bag because it does hold sentimental value. I didn't want it to get further ruined. So even though I haven't used it since, I can still see there's been extra paint chips, and it's just done really, really badly. These aren't cheap either, you know, they're really expensive, especially with the personalization. And I just don't get it. I don't understand why they're popular. Apparently you can get patches to cover up the corners, and you can kind of pay for them to do that. But for me, I don't think you should pay a company to fix a bad quality bag. You know, for me, they should just be doing that, or otherwise improving the quality of their bags. And this has just completely put me off Goyard, so I can't ever imagine buying anything else from them. I'm never gonna get rid of this bag. You know, I obviously have my initials on it anyway. But yeah, super sad and disappointed about this. This is definitely one of my more disappointing bag purchases. I'm down to my last 2 bags in this category now, and I do have my Gucci Marmont Mini. Anyone who watched my Gucci collection video will be familiar with my issues with this, but just carrying on the quality control issue, I don't think that the velvet quality is great on these, and I'm especially comparing it to the Saint Laurent velvet quality, which I think is amazing. Their velvet is very plush and beautiful, whereas this just isn't that great. So even right when I bought it, it had some threadbare areas around the corner, and then also on the bottom as well. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but it definitely looks a little bit threadbare, and also on the flap as well. And when I compare this to the leather versions, I have a little bit of wear on my nude one right here, but that's after just so much use. You know, I've used that constantly. I barely use this bag, and it was like that pretty much when I got it, and it hasn't gotten that much worse, but at the same time I don't think it should have been there to begin with. I wish I'd noticed it at the time, because I probably would have just asked for another one if they were any better, but I just think it speaks to bad velvet quality. And to be honest, I didn't actually know there was such a thing as kind of really good velvet and bad velvet, but just comparing this with my Saint Laurent bags, I can definitely see the difference. The velvet on my Saint Laurent bags is just much deeper and thicker, and it feels more luxurious, whereas this definitely feels thinner, and maybe that's why it does kind of wear a lot easier. But again, these aren't cheap bags, so I don't think it should happen. So I haven't used this much at all. I do prefer the look of my Saint Laurent ones anyway. And yeah, this one has just been a little bit of a disappointment. Still very much in love with my nude leather one, as I mentioned earlier, but not such a fan of the mini velvets. And for my very last bag, I do have here my Chanel small flap. Now, I did say earlier that I wanted to take colour out of the equation, which is what I've done here. I've talked a lot about how much I love this bag, and I really do. But I love it because of the color combination, and really in spite of everything else. If it wasn't for this color combination, I would never have gotten the small flap. And even though it has been better than I thought it would, I still think it represents pretty terrible value for money. It's very, very expensive. It doesn't fit any more than the rectangle mini, and it's almost as much as the classic flap and only slightly cheaper than the jumbo. So even though it's a beautiful bag, I'm very happy that I have it, and I still continue to use it. If you're looking at just the classic colours like black or beige clair, I would definitely say to avoid going for this size, just because I don't think it's very good value for money, you know? Very, very expensive. You can't fit that much. And if you wanted this kind of look and size and capacity, then I would just go for the rectangle mini and save yourself almost 2,000, I think it is. It's a substantial amount. So even though I adore the classic flap, I don't think that the small flap represents good value. I also have the same opinion of the medium flap as well. Beautiful bags, but in terms of value, I don't think you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. I will leave links to all these bags down below in the description section, but if you have any other questions for me, then let me know down below. If you liked the video, please do give this a thumbs up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.